I have tried to make this video so many times. I have to do it on my phone, and the button keeps getting pushed, I guess, somehow, because it's on my phone, so. Alright, so this is a mental health tag video. I made up my own questions. I didn't like the one that I saw floating around, so I'm going to do it my way. So if you want to copy and paste this and make your own, feel free, or use some of the questions, it doesn't really matter. You're welcome to that. So I have a list of 14 questions, and I'm going to try to get through them again without this thing stopping on me yet again. Question number 1. What is your diagnosis or diagnoses? I have been diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder, borderline personality disorder, panic disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Question number 2. Do you have a dual diagnosis? Yes, I do. That would be cannabis dependence. I have since stopped doing that because I want to do everything I can with the clearest head possible. Question number 3. When did you receive your diagnosis or diagnoses? The post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis, the first time I was diagnosed with it that I remember was when I was 20, and then it was re-diagnosed again 2 years ago. The other 3 were diagnosed 2 years ago. Question number 4. How have you accepted your diagnoses or diagnosis? Yes, I have. I don't think of it in terms of what it's called, but I think of it in terms of what I deal with, and learning how to deal with that, the symptoms, the issues. It makes it a lot easier for me to accept what's going on, because that I can relate to rather than just calling it something. So, yes, and I deal with it on a daily basis, so it's easier to accept it. At least for me. Question number 5. What are you currently doing for treatment? I'm currently in counseling. I have an appointment to see the previous psychiatrist, not the one that I just saw earlier this year or whatever, but the man that I saw before. I like him, so I have an appointment with him for an intake. I also do practice my DBT skills that I learned. I go to an Omni support group. I also I try to read, eat healthy, drink lots of water, stay away from caffeine, sugars, processed foods, all the different things I can do. I consider that treatment. Just being healthy all around as much as I can. I'm not perfect, but to me, doing stuff that makes you feel good, all that stuff, that's all. It's all therapy and treatment for me. Question number 6. What is your position on medication? I did make a video about this, sort of, but I'm going to say that if you take a medication that helps you and the side effects don't cause serious issues for you, then by all means I'm for that. But taking a medication where the side effects are worse than the benefits, then I'm against that particular medication. But it's an individual basis. You can't say that one thing is going to be good for everybody. So, question number 7. What is your position on therapy? Personally, for me, I think therapy is very important. Even if I'm not seeing a psychiatrist necessarily, just going to therapy and working through stuff and having that somebody who's not emotionally attached to me, being able to discuss things and work through things, I think that's very important. And I think it's important that if you do have any sort of mental illness, that you do go to counseling. Even if you don't want to. I didn't want to for years and years and years, and sometimes I still don't, but I know it's what is best. It's what I need. Question number 8. Do you recognize your symptoms? Sometimes. Sometimes I recognize when things are happening. I definitely recognize when I'm having like hallucinations. I can sometimes recognize when I'm starting to get a little sped up, if you will, like with the bipolar. I know when I'm like having a panic attack, definitely. That's something you can't forget. I know about like when I have symptoms of post-traumatic stress. The BPD though, that's a little bit harder for me. I don't always recognize that because that's not necessarily, that's more about how you function with other people and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit different, I guess. At least for me it is. So that one I'm still working on it, but sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Question number 9, do others recognize your symptoms? I don't know. I know definitely when I'm depressed, when I'm very depressed, my mother and my son definitely recognize it. Other than that, oh, and when I have like night terrors and stuff like that from the PTSD, I always wanted to say PSTD. I don't know why, it just sounds like it should be that way for me. It rolls better off the tongue for me that way, but it's not right. When I have like night terrors and stuff, that is a symptom for me of that particular disorder. So that one my mother has recognized because I've had them for a long time. So yes, I guess my mother does, and sometimes my son. Question number 10. How does it feel to have a mental illness or mental illnesses? How does it feel? Sometimes it can feel great. Like if I'm hypomanic, I can feel really great and creative and energetic, and just like I can just do anything and accomplish anything. Whatever I set my mind to, the sky's the limit. But in terms of like emotions and stuff, that can suck. It can feel really bad. It can feel horrible. It's like you're having this war inside your head, and you're not invited almost. It's weird. It can feel good at sometimes, like with the hypomania, but with the rest of it, it feels really lousy sometimes. A lot of the times when you're when you're going through a hard time. So, yeah. Question number 11. If you could get rid of your mental illnesses, would you? I would get rid of all of them. The only part about it that I wouldn't want to get rid of is the hypomania with the bipolar. When you're at that, when you have all that creativity and all that stuff, not necessarily, I'd like to sleep and all that stuff, but if I could have all that energy after having a good night's rest and have all that creativity and all the cool stuff that goes with it, I'd like to keep that, but get rid of everything else. Question number 12. Do you tell people about your diagnosis or diagnoses? No. Well, it depends. The only people that I will tell, really, is the people at my sport group. Here on YouTube, I have done it, so I guess if people know me and they've seen these videos, then they know, but I won't outright go and just tell people. I did that once because somebody had brought it up about somebody they knew, and I was just recently diagnosed, and I thought, well, maybe if I reach out. And when I said it, the person kind of looked at me like, yeah, whatever, and just moved on. So I don't do that. Question number 13. Is it limiting to have a mental illness? For me, it can be, especially depression, and that kind of thing. Like having flashbacks with PTSD and stuff like that. I mean, it can be limiting because it can set you back. It has set me back in the past, so yes, it can be limiting. And question number 14, any words of wisdom? Well, I would say that if you're dealing with any sort of mental illness, even if it's combined with some sort of addiction issue, whatever that may be, I would just say keep fighting. Don't ever give up, because the moment you give up on yourself, I mean, then what's the point, right? And I would just say have faith that you can make it through the hard times, even if you don't think you can. The light is always there at the end of the tunnel. It's just some people's tunnels are longer than others, so you can't always see the light. But it doesn't mean it's not there. And I guess I would say for people who don't have a mental illness, I would say if you are involved with somebody who has one, or you know somebody who has one, just be supportive, be a friend, you know. You might not always understand. We don't always understand either, but you might not always understand, but try not to judge that person harshly, and just try to, you know, be a good friend, be a good supporter, and just be there for that person if you can. And if you can't, maybe you shouldn't be in that person's life, because when you have a mental illness, you need supportive people. But you also need people who aren't going to let you fall. You know what I mean? So, be their safety net. But don't push them. Be supportive, but don't make them feel like they're a burden, you know. Just be there. Just be there. Oh, and also, I just want to say, don't, I know there's been a lot of stuff in the news lately about, you know, shootings and whatnot, and people saying, oh, well, this happened because this person was violent because of a mental illness. Sometimes, when you have a mental illness, yes, you can be violent. That doesn't mean all people who suffer from a mental illness are violent. In fact, most people who commit violent acts aren't mentally ill. They're perfectly sane. Or they are sociopaths. So, and those people are sane. They know right from wrong. They know what they're doing. You know, it's not like they're like, what? I don't know what happened. They know exactly what they're doing. So, I mean, just watch shows about murderers and serial killers and stuff. They're all sane people, you know. Usually they are, most of the time. And they commit violent, heinous acts against people. So, just remember, most of the people who are violent have nothing wrong with them in terms of a mental illness. and the ones that do have a mental illness usually are the victims of violent crimes. Yes, there are occasions when people can be violent and have mental illness, but the way that they portray it in the media isn't accurate. You know, they're just trying to sell headlines and whatever, so. Okay, well, that's all I have to say. I'm going to end this video before it decides to shut off on me, so, yeah, that's just a little insight, I guess, little Q&A session for myself, from me to you, because I cannot sleep, and, oh dear, it is, a little bit after 5, so I'm probably going to, like, turn on the weather channel or the news or something so I can get, the weather, because today I'm going to a festival. It's right, like, downtown, and I live, like, 2 minutes from downtown. I can just walk there, so it'll just be fun, something to do with Casey. Alright, well, you guys have a good morning, actually, because where I am, it is morning. It's still dark out, but it's technically morning. So, yeah, if I end up making another video, don't be surprised. Okay, well, I'm gonna let you guys go. You all take care. Bye.